terms of technology, the 90s were a great advancement in the way that we live our lives today. Many of the devices that were invented back then seem ancient to us now. One example of these was the pager. The pager is a small device used to get a hold of someone in a one-way messaging system. They are mostly used in the emergency medical field and are not nearly used as much today. The first pager was invented by Motorola and were generally affordable for the public, though not a lot of people use them. The way we listen to music changed a lot during the 90s as well. Devices such as the Discman, which was a portable CD player, and its smaller, more affordable counterpart, the mini disc, allowed you to play music wherever you went. The 90s were a great time period of portability. Devices such as the Game Boy, disc and MP3 players, cell phones, and even cameras were all becoming smaller and smaller as we spoke. Even though all of these devices changed the way that we live our lives today, computers were the biggest advancement in technology. The iMac was Apple's version of a somewhat affordable home computer, priced at $1,400. The iMac kick-started the era of computers being owned at home. Though it was affordable, it wasn't small. The iMac was a big, fat box that weighed roughly 38 pounds. It came in 13 different flavors, as Apple referred to their colors, and it also came with Apple's transparent blue keyboard and their hockey puck-shaped mouse. Cell phones, the device that we know and love today, also saw some great improvements and upgrades in the 90s. Companies such as Nokia and Motorola tried to move away from their nearly brick-sized design, but cell phones remained fairly large compared to what we see nowadays until the early 2000s. Newer phones releasing in the 90s were smaller and more affordable, and had more features such as cameras and texting. In the late 90s, a company by the name of BlackBerry allowed their cell phones to access email, web browsing, and other wireless features faster and more convenient than we've ever seen before. There are many devices that were invented in the 90s that we don't even see nowadays. Car phones, floppy disks, and PDAs, which were personal digital assistants, also known as Palm Pilots, all discontinued manufacturing. Palm Pilots allowed you to take notes, set to-do lists, and allowed access to calendar, and many more functions which could all be done on modern-day cell phones. In conclusion, technology has come such a long way, and I believe it will continue to get better and better.
Politics in the 1990s. Under George H.W. Bush from 1989 to 1993, there was an array of acts and actions taken by the U.S. government. There was the American with Disabilities Act, which forbade discrimination based on disabilities in employment, public accommodations, and transportation. The Clean Air Act of 1990. This focused on reducing urban smog, containing acid rain, and the elimination of industrial emissions and toxic chemicals. There were also a few major operations launched under Bush, such as the Persian Gulf War and Operation Desert Storm. There was also the budget law, which intended to reduce the federal budget by almost $500 billion in the next 5 years. The U.S. government under Bill Clinton from 1993 to 2001. Clinton launched an economic policy that combined tax increases and spending cuts to better the usage of money in the U.S. government. Clinton helped the economy boom and lowered the deficit from $290 billion to $203 billion by 1994. Clinton launched the NAFTA, which was the North American Free Trade Agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Music in the 1990s was a huge part of daily life. There was a mix of rap, pop, alternative, hip-hop, and techno. Some popular artists emerged from the rap era, such as Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer. Then there was a new type of rock that came to the front. That was embodied by Nirvana and Pearl Jam, but by the end of the 1990s, society was a bit bored of what they were singing. This gave way to a new, more happy rock, such as Hootie and the Blowfish, and later allowed more pop-sounding artists to come to the front, such as Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Another big part of the 1990s was the fashion. There was a rise of many different styles of clothing and accessories, most of which were fairly ridiculous. Mostly TV shows and celebrities began the trends, and mainstream culture followed. Courtney Love, Kurt Cobain's wife, started wearing what would become known as baby doll dresses. Shows like Beverly Hills flaunted the wonderfully hideous waist-high denim jeans for men and women. Children played with slap bracelets and mood rings. Leopard print, plaid, denim overalls, and flannel had their spots in the limelight during this decade. Overall, the 90s was a culturally rich time.
Cars in the 90s. Cars in the 90s were at a high point because they were advancing in technology greatly. Some cars that I researched, well, one of the cars that I researched is the Mazda Miata. The Mazda Miata is a small sports car that was supposed to emulate a British roadster. It was first unveiled at the Chicago Auto Show on February 10th, 1989. The cost of the base model of the car, without any options, was $14,000. The models were a convertible soft top with a hard top that could be removed, and then for the models, you could get the limited edition. The car was made in Japan and sold in Japan and America. It wasn't badged as a Mazda Miata in Japan. It was badged as a Ionos Roadster. It came with a 5-speed manual standard, and you could get an option of a automatic, still a 5-speed. The motor was a 1.6 liter inline 4-cylinder producing 115 horsepower and would get you from 0 to 60 in 8.1 seconds. So it was a small car just weighing over 2,000 pounds and was really good handling wise. Another car that I researched was the Bugatti EB110. It was a mid-engine sports car, which means that the engine was placed in the middle of the car, or as middle as you can get, and it was produced by Bugatti Automobili SPA from 1991 to 1995. The models, it only came in a hardtop, no convertible version, and it came in the base model and the super sport versions. It came in many different variations. The car, not really variations, it came in many different companies trying to base a car heavily off of the Bugatti EB10, and some of the names are the Dower EB10 and the B Edonis. And then some of the achievements for the car was it participated in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race, and it placed 5th in the GT1 category. The engine was a 3.5 liter quad turbocharged V12 engine, and it had a 6-speed manual transmission only. You could not get an automatic with this car. The third car I researched was the BMW E46 M3. It was first produced in 1985 and took off in 1994, was when everybody started noticing the E46. The cost of the car, straight out of the factory, was $43,000. And the models were the coupe and convertible, and that's all they came in. They didn't come in a sedan or anything. There was 85,000 built, 35,000 convertible, 40,000 in the coupe, and they were built in Regensburg, Germany. There was 3 special editions or models, and they were named the CSL, which was mainly for winter, the GTR V8, which was for track driving, faster driving, and then the 2CP, which is just slightly upgraded interior features. There were 2 transmissions, one being an SMG, which is a sequential manual gearbox, which is there's no clutch, it's a dual clutch mechanism in the car that you don't have to press down. And then it came with a manual transmission, which is your normal manual, and they both came in 6-speed. The engine in the car was a 3.2 liter inline 6-cylinder that produced 333 horsepower and got from 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. So cars were mostly lighter and faster in the 90s. It's when cars really took off technologically and started to make big differences and more competitiveness through the cars and really fine-tuning like track cars. And then they were mainly like lightweight sports cars. All the cars I listed here are sports cars. And that's it.